on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about how British suburbs and American suburbs are different. Now, when I think of a classic American suburb, I think of this. I think of this picture right here. It's, a nice little residential neighborhood. You got all your houses, your detached houses, and your grass and your lawn, maybe a driveway with your car in it. And this guy on the right-hand side even has a little American flag. That's kind of nice. But yeah, some suburbs are worse than this. Some are a little nicer than this, depending on your situation and all that. But on the whole, a suburb. It kind of looks like this, just a bunch of houses. It's a nice little place. And I'm a bit curious how this picture of a suburb in America, how is this situation any different than a British suburb? I'm very curious about that, and luckily for me, I get to find out today because we have a little video where this man, who has actually had the opportunity to live in a British suburb, since he is British, and he's also lived in the United States and experienced an American suburb, and he's going to explain apparently 5 differences between British and American suburbs. I'm very curious about, honestly. I didn't know there were differences, but that's kind of the fun in it. So let's take a look.
We're going to start this list by talking about something you may or may not have heard of called verges.
Verges are that...
What is this word? Verges. V-E-R-G-E-S. Verges. I don't know this word. I hope this isn't supposed to be an American thing. I don't know this.
List by talking about something you may or may not have heard of called verges.
Verges are that little strip of grass on the other side of the pavement from the front yard. While these do exist in Britain...
What? What? There's a name for that? Oh my gosh. It's kind of fancy. Like, is that a British word, or is it an American word that's just too fancy for me to know? Verges is the strip of grass in between the road and your sidewalk. I see those all the time, like in neighborhoods. I know exactly what we're talking about. I just didn't know that there was a word for it.
Little strip of grass on the other side of the pavement from the front yard. While these do exist in Britain, it's far more common to see a front yard / garden, a sidewalk / pavement, and then the road with the cars going in the other direction.
In America, it feels like...
Wait, what is he saying? No. No way. Wait, this doesn't exist? Like, it exists, but not very much in Britain? The verges? I didn't even know it was called a verges till about 30 seconds ago, but I know about this strip of grass. Hold on, can I get a picture of this? Verges. Now that I know what to look up, I know the word verges. You know what? Let's just go for a British neighbor? British suburb. Let's get a picture of not a British buburb, but a British suburb. I wouldn't mind a British buburb as well. Oh, is it even gonna show me? I'm astonished. Like, this is such a random thing to be different. This little strip of grass he's pointing to. That's not, like, common? That's not standard in Britain? What are you even doing if you don't even have this strip of grass in front of your yard? I don't even know what you're doing in life. No, I'm just kidding, but what a random thing to be an American kind of thing.
Of grass on the other side of the pavement from the front yard. While these do exist in Britain, it's far more common to see a front yard / garden, a sidewalk / pavement, and then the road with the cars going in the other direction.
Really?
In America, it feels like 80% of the time you are on the verge of a verge.
Yeah.
There are a lot of verges here.
Yeah.
And it's nice having them. I just wish that when I bought my house, somebody would have told me that I would be responsible for mowing them.
I was just about to say, it's kind of annoying because it is an extra little bit of your yard, like a little mini front yard, as we like to call it, or front garden, or whatever it is British people call their front yard. I think it's garden, but it's like a little extra work, and it's nice. I guess I never really appreciated it because I didn't know it was like special. It was just standard. I'm really I'm starting to appreciate life a little bit more and these little extra pieces of grass. I didn't even know how special it was.
Because while it sounds like small work, it's made harder by the fact that there's always a tree in the way. And while
Yeah.
we're on the subject
True.
of trees...
Trees? Trees? There's trees in Britain. Don't tell me there's no trees in Britain. Don't even start.
I've talked before about how there are different types of trees here, but that's not what I want to talk about.
Okay.
Nor the notion that your average American suburb has more of them, because I'm not entirely sure that it does. In fact, I
Okay.
want to talk about Grenliness. What's Grenliness, Lo?
Grenliness. Learning a lot today. There's verges, there's grenliness. It's like a whole suburban language I'm learning.
Lawrence, Grenliness is a word that I mmade up to describe
Oh.
the degree to which something is green.
Oh, okay.
Sort of like what
Okay, he made it up. Okay.
cleanliness does for the word clean. I want to get a word into the dictionary. And I can't really describe it, but I think there's something different about the Grenliness of American trees compared
Really?
to those in the United Kingdom.
Is he saying that our trees are more green? What about our grass? Are our suburbs just a little more, I don't know. I don't want to brag or anything, but do I not even appreciate our little verges, our little extra grass, and how green our trees are?
I'm not a scientist, but I think there's a vibrancy to the leaves of trees in the United States that you just don't see in Britain.
Really?
And I do wonder if some of that is due to photosynthesis, right? That's what we learned about in school. There's typically less cloud cover here in the United States compared to Britain. And I think that allows the Grenliness of not just the trees, but the grass to take...
He's not joking. He's not kidding. Like, he's actually saying, in his experience, he thinks the grass and the trees in the United States are more green. That's fascinating. I wish there was like I don't know if someone's done a scientific analysis of this or if there's a real explanation, if it's the species of grass or trees, or like he's saying that we have more sunlight. That's really interesting. I didn't know what to expect going into this video, like comparing British and American suburbs, but this is actually super interesting, even more interesting than I thought, these differences. And I kind of like that it's kind of, I don't know, hyping up American trees and American grass a little bit. I'm enjoying this. I'm really appreciating.
Take shape. I won't do that with a camera ever again. Perhaps the most enduring image of a stereotypical American house is not the house itself, but the white picket fence that surrounds it.
Yeah.
But while America undoubtedly has more of these than Britain, a lot of American suburbs
Oh, the white picket fence. That's not even a major talking point of his video, apparently. But yeah, Americans do love white fences. The white picket fence is kind of falling out of style, I think. That's like an old school American dream house thing. Americans do enjoy a big old white solid fence, though. I think we think it looks a bit more modern when it's just like a big solid white wall. And yeah, like most Americans, even myself, dream of having a house with a big old fence. Cause I just, we don't want to see our neighbor. We don't want to have to interact and see people in our house. Ha! Push!
suburban homes are perhaps more notable for having no partition whatsoever.
In other words, there's often very little protecting your front yard from wandering humans or even children. Thankfully, despite the open invitation, people typically stick to the sidewalk unless their name contains the words gym. And
Is he talking about American suburbs? American houses? I am confused. He must be. Is he saying that in Britain, most houses have a partition, like a barrier or a fence in the front? Like keeping people from walking on your lawn? Or I've never thought about that ever. Yeah, he's absolutely right. That's not really a concern we have. Most people do just walk. I mean, to be honest, this is America. People don't really get out and walk that much anyway. But if you live in a nice little suburb, they might. And people don't walk onto your lawn or anything. And they're typically not weird. It's usually your neighbors who are respectful and they don't want you walking on their lawn, so they don't start tap dancing onto your lawn or anything. So I've never even thought about having a fence or he called it a partition in the front to keep people off. I mean, I get it. Like it's kind of an added feature in keeping people away, but I don't know if it sounds entirely necessary. Is this common in Britain? I might have to look up a picture of this.
And chainsaw. In Britain, an open-faced front yard is considerably less common, with most houses opting not for a fence, but a low-lying wall or hedge.
Oh my gosh, he's not kidding. He's not kidding. Yeah, I mean, for one thing, holy, all these houses are attached to each other, which is different. And this looks very different than an American suburb right here. There's no grass or trees, and everyone has a little wall in front of their house. I don't know. It is, I hate to say it, but it's not quite as friendly and, I don't know, nature-y looking. I think that's fair to say.
In fact, it's often along these walls that you'll find our next entry.
Oh my gosh, most people in Britain have a little wall in front of the house. Stay out. It couldn't be more clear. A little wall. I don't know. I guess if you grow up with that, that's just normal. Yeah. Man, interesting. These differences are really interesting. Huh.
In the past, I've talked about the general difference between British and American street names. For example, in Britain, virtually every town and city has a street named after Queen Victoria. Whereas in the US, there's a good chance that your street name will contain either a president, a number, or a type of tree. But there's also a main...
Yeah. Yeah. Maple Street, Sycamore Street, 3rd Street, Lincoln Street. Yeah, he's spot on with that. Wow, I never even thought about that.
The difference in how the street names are displayed. In Britain, it's not uncommon for the name to be displayed on a 2-foot placard. These are normally mounted either onto 2 low-level poles or a wall.
Oh, that's kind of nice. Hold on. What is this? Hold on. This is kind of nice. Let me see the other one real quick. James Turner Street. It's like a metal street. It's got 2 poles. And this is just fancy right here. Like, that's just fancy to me. I like the street signs in Britain, actually. I think he's going to show the American version.
Wall. In the US, things are a little different. The street names are housed on smaller, greener placards that sit on a much taller pole.
Yeah, they're just on street poles or lamp posts or whatever is around. Like, there's usually a big wooden pole, like an electrical pole or something, and they put the little green street sign right on it, pretty high up so you can see it when driving around. I did not know that the way we display our street names was also different. A shocking number of little differences. Pretty big differences, actually, between British and American suburbs. Wow.
And given the grid-like nature of many American neighborhoods, these poles usually contain not 1, but 2 street names. One facing east or west, the other north or south.
Right. It can be on a pole like this, a dedicated pole. Yeah, our streets can be like a maze, to be honest, with lots of signs pointing all over the place like this.
This is why you'll often hear American film characters say something like, "Hey, Johnny, meet me at 21st and Washington on the double." In Britain, we don't really do that. It's more like, meet me at the pub at 9.
I think he's kind of joking, but also not. Yeah, that's an American thing as well? Like, meet me at the intersection of 1st and George Street. It's where the 2 streets cross, but are you telling me there's not as many intersecting streets in Britain? Is that too general of a statement to say, or is that just the truth? I got quite a few questions about this. Wow.
AM, bring your darts.
Wow.
And then there's the terminology we use to describe the stuff in our respective suburban lands.
Okay.
You've got yard instead of garden, sidewalk.
Oh, this doesn't surprise me at all. This is the least surprising part of the video so far. That there's a bunch of British words and lingo, and then there's the American words, even though we all sort of speak the same language. Sometimes it feels like we don't. Yes, I've heard of garden Like, even though we say front yard or front lawn, and it's a garden whether you have a garden there or not, or I don't know if that makes sense even.
Prospective suburban lands. You've got yard instead of garden.
Okay.
Sidewalk instead of pavement.
Pavement. Wow, pavement instead of sidewalk? I mean, we would say that the sidewalk is made out of pavement? Because I guess we call cement and pavement the same thing. Now I'm starting to realize maybe it doesn't make total sense why we say that. Maybe pavement makes more sense. I don't know.
A downspout instead of a drain pipe, or the
A downspout? You know what? It makes sense. A lot of these British terms actually make logical sense. The downspout, spout that goes down for your water, instead of what, like a drain pipe?
sidewalk instead of pavement. A downspout instead of a drain pipe, although Americans do also say drain pipe.
Median instead of central reservation.
Central reservation? That's a mouthful. I think I'm going to stick with median, I think.
And finally, there's a word difference for something that I spoke about earlier. Verges.
Verges.
At least verges are what we call them in England.
Verges? That's what they're called in England or Britain. In America, we don't talk about the verges. We call it the little piece of grass, like in between the road and your lawn. I don't know. I don't think we have a word for it.
In America, verges must be so prevalent that no single American can agree on what to call them.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania and parts of the Midwest, they apparently call it a berm.
Oh boy, I feel like this is going to be a bunch of words I've never heard of. I've never heard of a berm before, even if he is saying it's like a Pennsylvanian thing.
In the upper Midwest, it's a boulevard or a boulevard strip. New Englanders might go with a common.
In parts of Ohio,
I've never heard any of those. I think most people would say the strip of grass in your front yard, to be honest.
it's called a curb strip, while in other parts of Ohio, it's called a devil strip.
People in Ann Arbor, Michigan have been known to call it an extension lawn, which makes sense because it's an extension of your lawn.
Okay.
New Jersey seems to like the term grass bay, while others on the East Coast go with grass plot.
Except for
I mean, I've seen a lot of, I haven't lived everywhere in the United States, but I've watched a lot of TV and movies and grown up in the United States in several different states my whole life, and I've never heard any of these terms before, to be honest. I don't think, maybe I shouldn't say I know everything, because I don't, but I don't think these are very commonly, I don't think people talk about this part of their lawn very commonly. And that's why no one quite knows what to call it.
Long Islanders who think it's an island strip.
In the Pacific Northwest, the word median suffices, while Northern Californians think it's a most strip. Down in
Really?
the Gulf states, it's often known as neutral ground, which also makes sense because while a verge might be an extension of my lawn, other people's dogs do routinely shit on it.
What do you call this, Arthur? You probably just call it toilet, don't you?
Right.
Yes.
Some states know it as a parking strip, a park row, or a park row strip.
In Wisconsin,
I'm still waiting for a term that I've heard before. I've never heard any of these.
and Illinois, it occasionally goes by a right-of-way.
Alternatively, some Americans opt for sidewalk lawn, sidewalk plot, sidewalk strip, and in central Indiana, I once heard it called a sidewalk taint. Like, what? In
If someone said they're like sidewalk grass, I might be able to figure out what they mean, but yeah, this just isn't a part of the lawn we talk about. It's forbidden discussion for some reason. I never even thought about it.
southern Florida, some might even call it a swale, even though that sounds more like a species of fish. Some Missourians call it a terrace, which coincidentally is what the British call row houses, while some Americans will call it a tree box, a tree belt, or a tree lawn.
Why are there so many words for this? And what do you call it, other than that grassy thing over there?
That's what we call it. That's honest to God. That's what we call it. the grass by the road. I don't know.
Let me know in the comments below. And that's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever lived in a suburb and the general grandliness of your trees. I'm Lawrence Brown.
Wow, interesting. This was actually super enjoyable video. Really made me think and appreciate, actually, quite a few things we have in America, our American suburbs, I didn't even realize were different. By the way, this is by Lost in the Pond, and I liked it quite a bit. That was fantastic, and broke down a lot of comparisons I've never thought about, and certainly never knew were different between British and American suburbs. This was actually very fun, especially if our grass and trees are greener. I'm gonna hold on to that one. I'm gonna remember that one. That's just fantastic. Our verges. We don't talk about those. Yes, he talked about how it's possibly greener here. Our street name, we name our streets different and our signs are different. Yeah, there were quite a few random differences that were pretty... Yeah, I have to say, on the whole, I think I enjoyed this video so much because there was a shocking number of pretty significant differences in the suburbs. The British and American suburbs. I never even knew. So, but that's kind of the best part of it. That's when I have the most fun, is when there are all these amazing, cool differences to learn about that I never knew. So, I enjoyed this quite a bit. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to British culture and stuff in Britain that I've never seen before or learned before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.